Hello, this is 2.4, day 2. So we're going to go ahead and continue on in the notes looking at parallel and perpendicular today. So looking at these two lines are parallel lines. What do they have in common? Well, parallel lines have the same slope. So two lines are parallel if they have the same slope. So notice they're going up at that same rate and never ever touch. Okay, let's go ahead and flip to page 9 here. So at the top, we are going to talk about perpendicular and then we'll apply both of them. So perpendicular are a little trickier. Let's look at these two lines. So y equals 2x and y equals negative 1/2 x. So notice that they are forming a 90-degree angle. So what's going on with their slopes? One is 2, the other is negative 1/2. Notice they are inverses, but the signs are different. So if we actually multiplied those slopes together, we would get negative 1. So you can remember this. You flip it over and change the sign. That's how you get the slopes to be perpendicular lines. So these are opposite reciprocal slopes. Opposite reciprocal slopes for perpendicular. So now that we have talked a little bit about parallel and perpendicular, let's go ahead and practice and then we're going to go ahead and write them into an equation. So we've got a parallel, what we want it to be parallel to, and what we want it to be perpendicular to this line. So to get the equation of the line, we need a point on the line, which we have, and that would be 6, 4, because up in the directions here it says write the slope-intercept form of the equation of a line that passes through point 6, 4 and is parallel on the left, we're going to do that, and perpendicular on the right. We'll follow those steps. So they're both going to go through 6, 4. Then we need a slope. So let's take a look first at parallel. Our point is 6, 4. So x1 would be 6, y1 would be 4. Parallel to a slope of 1/2. Well, we just talked about that on the previous page. Parallel lines have the same slope. So if this slope is 1/2, then we want a slope of 1/2. So we're going to go ahead and plug it in because we have all the information that we need. Y minus y1, which was 4, equals m, which is 1/2, x minus x1, which was 6. So now we can go ahead and simplify like we've practiced on day 1. Distribute 1/2 x, and what is 1/2 of 6? 3. And then our last step is to get that 4 to the other side by doing the opposite, add 4. So we have 1/2 x plus 1 equal to y. Let's take a look at perpendicular. So we still have 0.64, so 6 is our x1, 4 is our y1, but now we want perpendicular slope. So let's think back up here. What did we do to get a perpendicular slope? Oh, that's right. We flip it over and change the sign, or do the opposite reciprocal. So let's flip it over and change its sign. So let's flip it. That would be 2 over 1, or just 2, and change the sign. So negative. Now we've got all our parts. Let's go ahead and fill it in. Y minus y1 equals m, negative 2, x minus x1. All right, what do we do now? You got it. Distribute. So y minus 4 equals negative 2x. What's a negative times a negative? Positive. Make sure to distribute to both terms. And last step, get that 4 to the other side. And there it is. So this one would go alongside our line up here, and this one would be perpendicular, form a 90-degree line to this line. All right, let's flip to page 10. We got a couple more to practice. Let's take a look at a parallel and a perpendicular. So I'm going to go ahead and do 1 and 3, and then you're going to go ahead and do 2 and 4 on your own to try one of each. All right, so let's take a look at a parallel. What we know about parallel lines is their slopes are the same. So my m for this one is going to be the same as this m, -5/2. So do I have an x1 and a y1? Oh yeah, I do. Right up here, x1, y1. So now I've got all my parts. Let's go ahead and plug that in. So if you want to write out y minus y1 equals mx minus x1, you can. I'm going to go ahead and write it out for you just so you can see how everything is plugging in to its place there. So we've got y minus 4 equals -5/2 x minus -2. Notice that I have a minus and a negative. This minus is a part of the formula from up above, and this negative is coming with the 2. So a double negative we want to change to a, you got it, positive. So now what we want to do is distribute. So we're going to go ahead and distribute 5/2. You're thinking, ugh, I have to distribute a fraction? I know. But most of the time they'll work out just fine. And you have a handy-dandy calculator. But the trick is that you can take the numerator times that number and divide it by the denominator. So what is -5 times 2? That's -10. And -10 over 2 is -5. You can also plug that fraction into your calculator and then multiply it by 2 as well. All right, last step, add 4. Y equals -5/2 x minus 1. Perfect. All right, let's take a look at this perpendicular one. If you want to pause and try the parallel one right now, you can. Otherwise, you can watch perpendicular and then try both. All right, so we have perpendicular now. Slope. What would be a slope perpendicular to -2? Because -2 is my m here. So I want to flip it and change the sign. So that's going to become a 1/2, and now it's going to become positive. Let's label x1, y1. And we want to write out our equation. Again, you can if you need this. Otherwise, you can just go ahead and plug things into the right spots. All right, so our first step is to plug things in. Y minus -5. Remember, the minus comes from there. The negative also comes down for the 5. So we have a double negative. We'll change that in a moment. 1/2 for the m. X minus -2. Ooh, we got 2 double negatives now. So change those. And let's distribute. So 1/2 x, what's half of 2? Well, 1. And our last step is to get the y alone. Subtract 5. So y equals 1/2 x minus 4. All right, go ahead and try 2 and 4 on your own. Try both of them. It's great practice to make sure you know what you're doing. And check your answer when you're ready. All right, here's number 2. Should be a slope of -1. Distributing, adding 1 to both sides to get y equals -x minus 2. Pause the video if you need to look at that a little longer. Number 4, perpendicular. Remember to flip your fraction and then change its sign. So we should have a slope of -3 that we're distributing, and then we're adding 1 to both sides. Double check your answer. Make sure that you have everything in the right spot. All right, go ahead and write any questions that you have at the bottom of your notes, or anything else that you may still need a little help with.